Hello, ghosties and ghoulies. Welcome to Nerds and Nightmares, a brand new podcast about all things horror. I am your host, Prince Luffy, here with my fabulous co host, Rudy.
Hello,
But
hello.
hi, Rudy. All right, so we just watched John Carpenter's 1982 classic, The Thing.
What a way to
Co-
start off, starting with a bang.
yeah, I agree. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about how The Thing came to be?
All right, so the thing was based off a novella called Who Goes There by John W. Campbell Jr. And then, so Campbell's been like writing sci fi for a very long time. He started at the age of 18 while also attending MIT, and his first story sold rather quickly. He later became an
MIT? Wow.
Yeah, he later became an editor for Astounding Science Fiction and remained the editor until he passed away. The film adaptation. Now, this film has been adapted 3 times, but I think it's pretty easy to say that the 1982, directed by Carpenter, is considered the best one. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, this New York native was interested in film, particularly westerns, low budget horror films, and high budget science films. Before he entered high school, Carpenter would make little short films with an M8mm camera. And his first award that he won, it actually wasn't for a horror film, it was for a short film western called The Resurrection of Billy Bronco. James R. Rogas directed the short film, and it won the Oscar for Best Short Film.
Oh.
He would later direct a comedy in 1974, a comedy sci-fi film called Dark Star that also gained a cult following. His first major success would be the first Halloween movie starring Jamie Lee Curtis and her debut. This would help popularize the slasher genre. Then he would have success with both The Fog and Escape from New York, and then came The Thing in 1982. So this film was not a success right away. We're going to get into that.
Yeah.
However, a lot of people did applaud the like creativity of the special effects. He worked with Robin R. Botten, who became sort of a legend in special effects. Now, Botten got his success by he sent a letter to Rick Baker, who was a special effects person who worked on the Star Wars films, and I guess he sent a drawing with the letter, and the drawing appealed to Baker, and he said, "Hey, you want to talk monsters?" And then Baker would take Button on as an apprentice.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
The behind the scenes revealed that Botten was only 23 years old at the time of doing the thing. So, like, he was a baby,
Mhm.
frankly.
And wasn't even his first film either, so he was working on films before that. So he got his start early.
Yeah. So the production for this was a little bit wrought. Because Carpenter's something of a perfectionist. Like, the filming lasted, they said, like 12 weeks initially. He wanted 2 weeks of rehearsal, which was not common, but he wanted to see how like all the scenes would play out. Initially, they were filming on the Universal lot, where it was, like in California, like 100+ degrees outside, and they built climate-controlled sets that were 24 degrees, which Fahrenheit, which is only like -2 Celsius. Initially, they wanted to use like maybe a refrigerated set, but they couldn't find any that like suited their needs. So they kind of made one. They bought a billion portable air conditioners and then humidifiers and misters so that like the air still had humidity
Mhm.
to it, and then sealed off the set, which is just wild to me. They built a terrarium,
Basically, yeah.
but after seeing the rough cut, Carpenter thought that there were too many scenes of quote unquote men just standing around talking.
And that
So
does
he
not
rewrote,
make good film.
yeah, it doesn't. It only works for some things.
Yeah.
I can think of like a couple films that take place like all in one room, but Not many.
Yeah, well, like, for horror, there has to be also a sense of, danger, there has to be some intenseness to it, and just having people stand around, that doesn't make it intense.
Yeah, I agree. So he rewrote some of the scenes to be outdoors. And initially, they filmed like the opening scene with the helicopter trying to shoot down the dog in Alaska in Juneau. But when they were refilming these new scenes, they found Stewart in British Columbia, Canada. And it was like this little teeny middle of like on the coast, but like way out there town, and is apparently considered the snowiest town in this like Canada,
Oh, wow.
which is wild. Um, on the journey, apparently, like they took 100 crew members out there and to start filming, and apparently on the journey, their crew bus actually hydroplaned on like a
Ooh,
snowbank,
that is
and
terrifying.
they almost went over a cliff and
Scary.
down 500 feet. Like, yeah, I would remember that filming. Credit to the bus driver.
Oh,
I
yeah.
hope he got I hope he got thanked.
He
Give me
probably
credit.
did.
Um, so then they built sets for like the outposts when it was still summer, and then waited for it to snow, obviously. But because those sets were being used both indoor and outdoor, the indoor temperature couldn't go below freezing, or else the snow on the roofs for the outer shots might melt.
Mhm.
So everything filmed out there, the actors were in freezing temperatures the whole time.
Really hope they got paid well.
Hmm. Apparently, it got so like cold that they would have camera lenses that were just like freezing and snapping, and they couldn't take the cameras in and out because when they did that, they would fog, and then they couldn't get them clean for like hours because it's
Snow,
like
yeah.
glasses.
Mhm.
As someone with glasses, fogging is a problem. In the winter, it sucks. So I guess they were out there for like 3 weeks, and they had to like take a lot of breaks because it was still like the winter, and several days they just couldn't film at all because the weather was just so shitty.
Mhm.
Which, eh, that doesn't sound like much fun. I feel like they were living the experience of their characters
Oh, yeah.
in some ways. More people, but
Mhm.
um, the final destruction of the set, like they destroyed like the whole thing in that like last big explosion. Apparently, it took like 8 hours to rig all that dynamite, and then they set up cameras, like 7 of them,
Mhm.
that were activated remotely, but they had the camera assistants, like, up there to the last second, and then they had to run away at top speed.
They had to get the shot. They had to
Yep.
get the shot.
I like, part of me wants to know if they have the severed cameras, like, just to get all the angles or to, like as, like, reassurance, in case one exploded.
Yeah. So, this is really, interesting, but so I've talked about this before in my other podcast, but a lot of times, so when a movie is, like, being made, there's something called a focus group, and it's a bunch of people who come and watch the film before it's released.
Mhm.
And apparently there were, like, several endings, and the original ending was originally shot down. Um, they made an ending where it was just it was just Mac, Childs was
Yeah.
not there, and that tested a little better with the audience, and they decided to use it, but then Carpenter and the executive producers said, "Nah, we're gonna go back to the original ending," which I kind
Yeah.
of prefer, honestly. I think it's better that it kinda ends on a sort of bittersweet note.
Yeah, I actually really like the ambiguity of, the ending that they went with, even though apparently that was part of, like, what they think, did not go well with audiences, like, the first time around.
Mhm.
We can talk a little bit more about, like, the, um, special effects
Yeah.
as we're talking about the plot.
Alright, so it takes place. Now, again, we said this was, like, filmed in, like, Alaska and Canada, but it's supposed to take place in, like, Antarctica,
Yeah.
um, and it starts out it might be a little confusing, like, the first time you watch this, but it starts off with a, helicopter, a Norwegian helicopter that is pursuing a sled dog, and trying to kill the dog, um, and the Americans are really confused because they don't know what's going on, so they come out, and the Norwegian tries to tell them that the dog is not really a dog, but they, of course, can't understand him.
Yeah,
Uh
I looked up what he was saying, and apparently, like, it is Norwegian, but the grammar's very bad and not like what a normal Norwegian would sound like because the actor wasn't Norwegian. But it
Yeah.
was intended to be something along the lines of, "Get the hell out of here. That is not a dog. It's some sort of thing, you idiots."
So, we also get, like, a little insight to the setup, I guess, of the base, like, these guys have been here for a long time, they don't really have a lot, McGreedy decides to ruin, like, the one computer they have because he calls it a cheating bitch, it's like a chess computer,
Yeah.
but since, like, the Norwegian cannot speak English, he accidentally shoots one of them, and he also had was it a flash grenade or something, or just a normal grenade?
Yeah.
He
I
has
think
a
it was
flash.
a
It wasn't a
yeah, I think it
normal
was a
one, it
flash.
yeah, and so we kinda both laughed at this part just because the way he dropped it was not very realistic. Because he acted like he had it, and all of a sudden it, like, just slipped out of his hands, so
Yeah.
the helicopter goes up in flames, um, and they're all really confused because they're not exactly sure why he was doing it, why he was shooting the dog, um, so, MacReady or Mac, as the people call him, and Dr. Copper go to investigate the Norwegian base, and what they find is not good.
Yeah. Everything's destroyed. There's like just charred ruins everywhere and corpses that have been frozen over because it's Antarctica. And amongst them, they find this like burnt corpse that's like it looks like melted wax, like these like two faces and the whole body just kind of all melted together in like a big uh amorphous pile.
Yeah, and so they're even more confused, and is they also find the I think they find the ice where they got the thing out of,
Yeah.
but you see at this time, they don't know what it is, because they just know that they took something out, of the ice, and they're, again, very confused. Their biologist, Blair, played by the late great, Walter Brinley, uh, does an autopsy with no gloves, no mask on his face. So it's like, "I'm just gonna touch this thing. We don't know what it is.
Like
Figure out what it
not
is."
not one he has gloves in like a couple shots, but he does not have a mask. He's not even wearing like one of those like if you ever seen any cop show and they've got like a, like an ME, like a mortician, and they're always wearing, that little like smock
Yeah.
essentially, like a lab coat. Doesn't even have like one of
Nope.
those.
He seems way too casual with touching this thing too.
Yeah, like just kind of fishing around inside it, 'cause why not?
But he does, like, figure out what it I think he's looking at it, he's like, "It seems like it's supposed to be a normal
Yeah.
human," you know?
initially he finds like just normal organs that don't look like anything happened to them. Um, so one of the guys kennels the dog because initially the dog was just kind of like
Hanging.
following them around the station and like just I don't he was just kind of chilling and he seemed just to be laid back little dog. But then they put him in the kennel and immediately all of like the other dogs that are in there are like, oh fuck this shit.
Yeah,
Like
they know something's up. So I think it's the vet Clark,
mhm.
hears them, and this is, like, the first scene that we get of the titular thing, and if I remember, this was a puppet, yeah. It had a remote control face, and there were small, whips, like, within the body because of, like, what happens is, like, tentacles come out of it, and it latches
Yeah.
onto the other dogs to make it, like, a part of its body. Um, we found okay, so we were watching this, thing on YouTube about the special effects, and what's really interesting is they used a bunch of different substances, like, for the blood. It wasn't just, like, one thing, they used a bunch of different stuff. They used creamed corn, eggs, mayo, strawberry jam, KY, jelly, they also used apparently, like, something that's, like, in Twinkies.
Yeah, carbidol, which is when the thing initially like it opens its face up like almost like a if
Flour.
you've seen Stranger Things, it looks a lot like a demi dog
Yeah, it
in the
does.
opening, like a flower with the teeth and stuff. And then it shoots out what seems to be acid because the dogs start like melting.
Mhm.
And it apparently, yeah, carbitol, which is something that is used in Twinkies. Where in Twinkies, I do not know.
And, what happens is, Clark hears it, and I think does he call for help, or do they pull the fire alarm? I think he
I
calls for help.
believe that, yeah, he called for help.
Mhm,
Um, the disturbance like alert, a bunch of like them. They all come in, and they're all kind of freaking out. They're seeing this like dog thing, which has got this creepy ass dog face, and then looks like melted flesh, essentially.
and I think only
And
2 of the dogs managed to get away.
yeah, but
The other 3 are unfortunately dead.
yeah, Childs, the played by Keith David, who apparently this was his first like big acting role. This is
Mhm,
his breakout role.
yeah. He starred in, like, a movie before, but this is what, like, really put him on the map. Um,
He uses the flamethrower and tries to incinerate the creatures, which like
we're gonna see a
flips
lot of
out.
the throwers in this.
Yeah, it flipped out the one guy because he's like, my dogs, and then he
But
kind of
it's
had to like
like,
hold it back.
"Dude, that's not a dog anymore," and it killed the other ones. So then they take it to Blair, and he does an, um is, he's doing, like, the, what is it called? Autopsy?
Yeah, it's
Again,
technically I guess a necropsy when it's an animal, but yeah, it's an
yeah,
autopsy.
and he figures out right away that this thing can, like, imitate anything, and, we kept, like, making comments about, like, the special effects because, like, when he opens it up, there's, like it's like the dogs have, like, fused their faces together,
Mhm.
and it's really creepy looking, but it looks and remember, this was the '80s, this was way before CGI, so it just everything looked so amazingly good.
Like it just looks hella nasty. I was a big fan of it. He cracked it open and he's just got like he's like it looks like a dog, but see it's got like these bones it's trying to turn into like the next thing that it's imitating, but we basically caught it mid transformation.
Mhm. Um, and so This is probably, like, around the time where the paranoia starts to,
Yeah,
affect
it starts to,
them.
like, take seed, like, the seed starts to take root.
'Cause see, Blair later, he gets extremely drunk. I don't know if he did it before or after he ran a simulation, but he ran a simulation figuring out that what the creature wants to do is, like, copy everybody on Earth and, like, take over. The group has to, like he's gone crazy, he's drunk, he's shooting, uh for some reason, they gave him a gun. He's shooting a gun, he's using a axe to destroy all the machines. He
Yeah, his, like they got, uh, data, I guess, from the base, I forgot, like, that they did that. They find, like, the spacecraft that's partially buried, and it's kind of implied that it was, like, frozen there for a long time until it was dug up and accidentally unfrozen, but
Mhm.
yeah, Blair does this whole, like, simulation on the computer, and then I think he got really drunk. He, like yeah, isn't that like he was attacking Windows, who is the guy who runs the, like, ham radio,
Comms,
essentially, the
yeah.
communications.
Yes, that is his nickname, it's Windows. Um,
Yes.
so they have to, like basically what they do is they get one of the doors to, like, get in there so they can, like, rush him.
Yeah.
Um, but then if I remember correctly, let me think. So they recover some of the data and find out what the Norwegians found.
Yeah, I believe that they knocked Blair out,
Mhm.
and they put him in, like, one of the like, it wasn't an outhouse, it's not quite it's just, like, one of the little buildings on the outpost,
Yeah, it's some type of
and
shed.
us yeah, essentially kinda, like, lock him in there. It's a brig now.
Mhm. And then they take the, first, like, thing corpse and, like, in horror movies, you never turn your back on something, but, like, they call McCready, it's like, "Hey, you gotta come get your stuff down," and then Windows leaves the room, but he comes back to find that the thing has Bennings, another one of the people, like, ensnared in his tentacles. They
Yeah,
also had to kill the remaining sled dogs. Um, but see, uh
and then Blair sabotaged all the vehicles, like um, the helicopter and stuff, so there's, like, no way that they'll be able to get out, and there won't be any rescue team until spring,
mhm.
because like, now they can't call for anybody, and nobody's gonna come in the middle of Antarctic winter where there's, like, blizzards every 5 seconds.
So they also, like we said, they use the, what do they call the flamethrowers a lot. What happens is when it takes over Beddings, they find him and Beddings is like his hands are malformed and he releases like this unholy screech. So they set him on fire.
Yeah,
Um, they were going to test their blood to see if any of it was contaminated, but then they found that the blood stores have been destroyed. And this is like one of the main scenes where I think the paranoia starts getting to them. They lose the faith
yeah,
in Gary, who was in charge originally, and so then McGritty takes control, and then they find that one of their other comrades is dead. They think that he killed himself so he wouldn't be turned.
yeah,
We have no way of knowing.
yeah, and which, like, it kind of makes sense. If he was attacked during any of that, or if he saw what happened, to Bennings and stuff, and prior to that to, you know, any of them, like, he might've, but it's hard to know because, like, his corpse was also burnt. So, it's like, did he try to start up one of the malfunctioning vehicles? Did it, like, kick back at him? How did he burn himself?
Yeah, we don't know.
Did he light himself on fire? Yeah. Um, so but, like, because they found that, they're kinda like Windows comes back to the base, and McCready and Knowles, who's, like, the chef who during the start of the film was kinda just, like, roller skating all about, as one does, I guess, go to investigate McCready's shack because 'cause he's got, like, a off the main, um, outpost little shack, and they find his, like, torn clothes in there and assume because the aliens, like, tear clothing to get into their victims, that he must have been turned.
Mhm.
So Knowles just leaves him out he goes back into the outpost, and he leaves McCready outside in the snowstorm to die, essentially.
Again, it makes sense, because the thing is this thing, whatever it is really good at blending in. It's kinda like a chameleon. It can take on, like, anybody's form. Um,
Mhm.
so it kinda makes sense why they, you know, why they do it. So they kind of like, "Oh, should we let him back in?" But, McCready breaks in and he has some dynamite and a flare, and he basically, threatens them saying, "Let me back in." And this causes, one of the comrades, Norris, to have a heart attack, so they take him to Copper, and this is another, special effect. It was made of fiberglass, like, they made a fake
First,
torso, played Norris.
they tried to, like, Copper tries
Go
to,
ahead.
defibrillate, like, Norris, and
Yeah.
it fails. But then all of a sudden, Norris's chest, like, transforms into this big maw with these jagged teeth and then bite off both of, uh, Copper's arms. And
Yeah.
Rudy could explain how that was done.
And it's such a amazing scene. Like, they put so much effort into this. When we were doing research for this film, I found out that only 1.5 million was spent on the creature effects because, and I find that shocking just because not only does the stomach opened up, but from the stomach comes this, like, twisted kinda snake creature, and apparently it was a marionette that they
Mhm.
controlled, and the head of Norris is, like, ripping off. It's
Yeah.
screaming, and the skin's coming undone, there's all this gunk in it, it is so freaking disgusting, but so cool at the same time. Um, and they're, like, all freaking out, they're like, "Ah, McCready, just shoot it, get it." So he sets it on fire, and there's, like, so what happens is the head, detaches, but then it turns
Mm.
into, like, a spider, and somebody says, like, "Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me," and they kill that one too, and the so they made, like they used a lot of gelatin in this,
Yeah.
which sometimes you can tell, but sometimes you can't. Again, just the effect that they put in, the amount of effort they put into the special effects really shows.
Yeah, the guy that was dead on the table, Norris, they made a fiberglass, um, and, foam foam latex, like, torso, and it was his head, but it was a fake torso attached to, like, the table, and what I thought was even more amazing was when the doctor's arms were, uh, chomped off, they used a stand-in with a photorealistic, like, mask of the actor playing the doctor, who was already an amputee, and they made him fake arms out of, like, um, they said gelatin with wax bones. They made wax bones is so fascinating to me.
They put in
And then
so much effort.
rubber and gelatin veins, which apparently were filled with fake blood, so, like, when they were being bitten off, they would, spray and stuff, and it was fascinating. Like, it was incredibly well done.
Mhm.
And I was just very impressed with that.
So after this, um, McCready like re-proposes, "Hey, let's test everybody's blood to see
Because yeah, go ahead.
because that way they can see who is like infected because
Yeah,
the blood will react to heat." Is what I understand.
yeah, he said, like, he, like, posits that, um, the this creature that after we saw it break off into no less than, like, 3 different things when Norris died, that, like, every time you try to, like, separate a piece, that part tries desperately to live,
Hmm.
and therefore the blood will be no different. So, it doesn't seem to like fire, and he thinks that the blood will therefore react to fire.
Yeah, and so so unfortunately Clark gets shot because he runs at McCready. But it turns out Clark was a human. Windows is fine, but when they get to Palmer's blood, all hell breaks
Uh,
loose.
Because like McCready's brilliant plan here was, um, after tying everybody up together, like, to the same set of chairs using the same rope, and then holding the flamethrower on them essentially so that he can turn it on if one of them turns out to be, a creature. And yeah, like, so when Palmer's blood reacts and jumps out of the fucking tray, it's like a little creature. Palmer starts like transforming and breaking out of the bonds.
He like starts to form more eyes.
Mhm.
There's like blood pouring out of him, and so I I don't want to say like this is funny, but the thing was, it's just they did such a good job of like showing how freaked out everybody would be because they're on the couch. It's Childs and Gary. They're on the couch and they're tied up and they're screaming. They're like, McCready, McCready, get him! Windows, Windows, get him! Like they're all freaking out.
They're like,
Um,
"Oh my god, get the flamethrower!" And McCready is like
unfortunately, Windows does not make it.
trying to get the flamethrower to work, and it's not
Yeah.
working.
And they tell Windows to do it, but I guess Windows was too scared because the thing just kills him.
Yeah,
And
it like stomps him, and then it just looks like it's trying to like swallow him whole,
well, like it's
kind of like a
trying to make its mouth bigger, I think,
yeah.
but it's not working.
That like effect was actually a bit funny because his legs are just like standing up and wiggling in the air and stuff while it's essentially trying to swallow him down like a pelican with a too big fish. And the other 3 guys are screaming.
But
So
but eventually McCready gets the flamethrower to work. And it turns out that Knowles and Child and Gary are not, thing creatures.
I actually thought it was really funny because like first he burned up Palmer and then he burned up Windows because it was starting like he was starting to come back. And during that scene is when Palmer's like body, he lights it like entirely on fire and it like runs outside, breaking through one of the walls.
Oh yeah, that's right, and it's on fire.
Um and apparently that was a very specific stuntman named Anthony Cesare who I guess specializes in fire stunts
Yep, that was his
and
thing.
yeah, and did a bunch of them like in the 80s like in Ghostbusters
He
and
was the
all
Stay
these
Puft
other
Marshmallow Man.
yeah, like they put him in a suit that's made of like gel and petroleum and then they light him on fire for like X amount of time before he's put out. And part of it is he cannot breathe. the whole time or else he'll singe his lungs, which logically makes sense to me, but also, damn, what a breath capacity he must
Yeah.
have.
And people
But
are like, they did a lot of like really over the top things, guys. This was the 80s. We didn't have a lot of the like laws in place to protect stunt actors or actors in general. That comes a little later.
mm, and, like, I also really liked about this scene is that he first, like, tests, um, Null's blood, and then in the next shot when he's about to test, Child's, Null's has the other flamethrower, and then when they're about to test Gary, he's, like, got it while Null's and Child's have the other flamethrowers on Gary, like, pointed at him just in case.
So they then, I think they, is it Knowles who says they want to go check on Blair, or somebody says we should go check on Blair? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, they want to do the test on Blair.
Yeah.
However, they find that he, like, they get in. There's like, where the heck did he go? The door was locked. They realize that Blair dug under the shack, and they find that he is one of the reasons he destroyed the vehicles was for components to try to assemble a flying saucer to get back to, I guess, their home planet, because we see the flying saucer at the beginning, but it's been implied that it
Yeah.
was ruined when they, crash landed, but they destroy it, so, it cannot, you know, go back to its planet and tell the others.
Yep.
Um So they find out child is missing and the generator has been destroyed. That means they don't have heat. MacReady says so since it can't escape. They
Yeah.
think he thinks it's going to return to hibernation until a rescue team arrives, and when it does, it's going to break out and you know, get to civilization through the rescue team.
Yeah. So they basically agree that can't happen. So they start rigging up the whole like kit and caboodle to blow, like with all this dynamite. And during this like confrontation, the thing, which looks like Blair at this point, kills Gary and Knowles disappears. And then it starts transforming into this like huge, nasty creature, like Akira style. If you've ever seen that anime,
It does look like the thing at the end of Akira.
and like the detonator is broken, but McCready still manages to trigger the explosives with like another stick of dynamite, destroying the entire station and also the thing.
And then Childs appears saying he thought he had seen Blair. That's why he wasn't around. Um,
Yeah, and he got lost in the storm.
which that would make some sense, but I mean, the thing is that the two of them are just sort of like, what are we gonna do? It's like, who knows? They just sort of they realize it's not really worth it to distrust each other anymore, and they share a bottle of whiskey, and that is the end. Now, as we mentioned, people did not like this ending, so originally when it was released, it wasn't that well received. And we think
Mhm.
besides the, like, ending, this came out 2 weeks after E.T., and E.T. was a cultural phenomenon. Like,
Mhm.
even after it came out, people were still going to see it, and that has
Yeah.
a more positive, like, portrayal of aliens. The aliens are not bad, it's the government who's bad. E.T. is a lot more cuddly than the Thing creature is, and you cannot take a child to see The Thing. I'm pretty sure this movie was rated R, let me check.
It was.
Yeah,
Um
okay.
so like and apparently around the same time, like, Blade Runner and stuff came out, and some people have suggested that maybe part of the negative reception was that some people were just getting, like, sci-fi fatigue,
That's
because
also a
a lot of, like,
possibility.
sci-fi and alien movies come out
Yeah.
in the last few years, and then a lot of the, reviewers had problems with the gore in it. A lot of them considered it over the top, and I think Roger Ebert said that he felt like the gore was used in place of like plot and character development, and that there wasn't just enough like focus on those things. And there's apparently also complaints about a lack of camaraderie and romance.
Okay, so the thing is I do understand the, like, lack of camaraderie, but I think the thing is that these guys have been at this base for who knows how long. They're tired of each other. So, of course, they're not gonna be super close, but also romance. There are no women in this, and we know back in the '80s, you can't be gay. No such a thing as preposterous. But, so it's like, who what did they want to have happen? Windows makes out with the thing? I don't know. I kinda don't think that's a valid criticism because this is not a movie about romance. That's not the point of this,
I mean,
you
and
know?
frankly, like it's also not a one about camaraderie. It's about like paranoia and turning
Yeah.
against like, the people that you're around. Like
Mhm.
maybe they wanted to see more camaraderie before. Like
Maybe.
I could see that argument. Like perhaps they wanted to see more friendliness and stuff so that when they started turning against each other, it felt
More
even
emotional.
worse.
Maybe,
Yeah.
yeah. But see, sometimes horror movies will also make sure that you're not attached to the main characters so that when they die, it's not as gut-wrenching, which I do appreciate sometimes. However, like, so just because a movie doesn't do well at the box office doesn't automatically mean it is a failure. It's just, again, this is something that I felt like thanks to like VHS and like rentals, it became a pop culture icon. The book "1,000 and One Movies You Must See Before You Die" said one of the most influential horror movies of the 1980s, much imitated but rarely bettered. It's one of the first films to unflinchingly show the rupture and warp of flesh and bone into grotesque tableaus of surreal beauty, forever raising the bar of cinematic horror. And I think I kind of have to agree because there have been, when something's popular, people imitate it.
Mhm.
I don't think anything could possibly come even close to the thing.
I feel like some things probably could, but I think that they have to be their own things, not like a
Mhm.
remake of the thing. I think that other films that know how to strike this balance, especially with like practical effects and stuff, could, you know, come close to it in their own way. But like I think that it set the tone. It's the
Mhm.
blueprint.
Yeah. And, I was actually surprised to see how many, like, uh I knew directors were inspired by this film, but I was kinda surprised by a lot of the people who were inspired, by it. Of course, Guillermo del Toro, who is, famous for, his, like, dark horror fantasies, but also, Quentin
Mm.
Tarantino was inspired by The Thing, J.J. Abrams, there's a few more, let me see. Let's see, Brian Patrick Butler, um, Stephen S.D. Knight, Robin Hardy, David Robert Mitchells, Neil Blomkamp, who made District 9. Um, and in the 2015 Tarantino film, he said that The Hateful Eight takes a lot of cues from The Thing, and even including Kurt Russell in a starring role. Um, And I'm actually surprised it took them this long, but in 2025, the Library of Congress selected The Thing for preservation in the National Film Registry. So, what does that mean? So, every once in a while, the Library of Congress will go, okay, this is our National Film Registry. We're going to add films that are important culturally, historically, or aesthetically important to like arts. They
Yeah.
got 2001 Space Odyssey, All About Eve, The Big Lebowski. There has to be something culturally significant about the film, and The Thing was added last year.
Good for the thing.
Now, I kind of am surprised it took me this long to realize this, but, the very popular, video game Among Us from Innersloth takes inspiration from the movie. I've played this game a lot, and, one of the things is that the imposter so in this game, if you if you've never seen this game or have never played it, you are on a spaceship and there's an imposter among you. And what you have to do is you have to do all of your tasks, but you also have to make sure you don't die. The imposter goes around jumping in vents trying to kill you. And the thing is when the imposter kills somebody, a lot of times its stomach will open up and reveal a tongue, or it has a like a spear or something. Sometimes it just opens up its mouth and it has a hand shooting a gun. So it is very obvious that they took inspiration from the thing. Now, this was actually my first time seeing the movie. I had been wanting to watch it, and I understand why this film is considered, very important to horror and sci-fi. I think, everything is done brilliantly. Like, I really think Kurt Russell does a great job in this film. I think the special effects are what really make the movie, and you feel that sense of, like, paranoia and fear. This film is very atmospheric and intense.
Mhm. I agree. There's also just a lot of, like, different ways that one, can interpret, like, the themes that, like, the story evokes, which people have many ways over the years. I like, obviously, the main focuses are, like, isolation and paranoia and, like, the idea of your peers sussing you out, like, somehow.
And
And I
not
thought, like,
being able to defend yourself.
yeah. And I thought one of the more interesting, analyses was by, Noah Bertulski from The Atlantic, who noted that unlike typical, like, films from the horror genre, there's no women here, and, like, the thing has to be, like, identified through, um, essentially a lack of toxic masculinity or male frailty, and that you could even, like, say that it's analogous to, um, like, being gay, that if you're, a queer a queer man in the '80s, that you wouldn't want all of your, like, male peers to know this about you, and that the examination involving blood kind of could be seen as kinda like the AIDS crisis, which at the
Oh,
time could
I
only
did
be
that.
ID'd through blood, and that you have to set aside that toxicity, um, and show intimacy, confession, and empathy, uh, to, like, out the creature and trust one another and stuff, which are, like, considered, like, fragile feminine traits and stuff, and the inability to do those things is what leads to the character's destruction. I don't know, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, like, as we said, the, like, main themes are, like, paranoia and isolation. There's also a fear of the unknown and how the thing is, like, the fear of the unknown. I think that's a very common, fear I think all humans have. Do we,
Mhm.
take a risk or do we stay with what we know? Because taking a risk can, be very frustrating, and sometimes it might not be worth it.
Yeah. I also think that, like, some other, analyses have, like, said this is very similar to, like, like, the Red Scare and other,
Mhm.
like, cultural phenomena where people were essentially turning
Yeah,
on
the
everyone else around them. But, like, I also think that there's a fear of, like, in media, especially horror, that is very human, of just not knowing someone that you thought that you did. And whether that be it turns out that somebody that you like loved and trust is like a serial killer or whatever, or they have literally someone you cared about has been like replaced without your knowledge by some creature. And that person that you loved is gone.
Yeah. I remember actually, like, I have that sort of fear, like, where like, the reason I don't really get scared at horror movies usually is because it's something supernatural, but I've had, like, nightmares where someone I love was replaced, and it's like, I could just tell this is not the person I love. Like, one time I had a dream somebody replaced my dad, I'm like, "That's not my dad." It looked like my dad, sounded like my dad, but I'm like, "That is not my dad." I don't know, and everyone's like, "Yes, it is your dad," and I woke up feeling so frustrated, and, like, I had to go find my dad to be like, "Okay, that's actually him." It was just so frustrating, and I think that's another thing is that you can feel the frustrations mounting with these guys because, like, what are they supposed to do? They're in the middle of nowhere, and this creature can imitate them so seamlessly. They can't just it's not like its eyes change or something, it's just
Yeah.
they can't figure out what it is until it's, like, shot or something, so they're very frustrated and they cannot get any help, and also I have a feeling, like, even if they told somebody, they would probably think like, "Oh, this person's crazy," so, yeah, um, I would
Yeah, because
go ahead.
until like I mean, it's such a fear that there it's actually some people have like capgras delusion and fully fall into a paranoia and a delusion that their loved ones have been replaced essentially like by pod people. Like
Mhm.
that's an actual mental illness that people could get.
Yeah,
But I I think that one of the like the things that it also, you know, is like at deep down in its core, yeah, the fear that you just didn't know the people you thought you knew. That you can't
yeah.
trust yourself, you can't trust your own perception, and that you
Mhm.
can't trust people around you.
Yeah. And like another theme is the survival instincts, morality versus self-preservation. And in this, at first, it's like they want to stay alive, but then they realize the thing has a plan, and it's like, we cannot let this thing live. If we do, it's going to kill thousands of other people, innocent people. Is that, they say like they didn't like there's like a lack of camaraderie, but at the end they all decide together we're either going to die here or we will die trying to stop it. Like they at the end do have a sense of we need to do the right thing. We cannot let this thing continue its reign of terror, so to speak.
Like and I saw a couple of the negative reviews claim that the quote unquote suicidal ending like kind of went against the heroism or something like of the film, and I personally read it as like a heroic sacrifice.
Yeah,
Like
that's
they're
how
they're
I saw it.
choosing to go down with the ship because they don't want this thing to get out of there and to the rest of humanity.
Yeah, because the thing if that thing did escape, how would they find it? Like, it's different when it's, like, only, like, 12 people, but if it escapes to a massive city, there's no way for them to find it. And again, like, I agree with you. I think it is very noble because they realize that, you know, this the thing has a plan and they they are aware of it. They are the only ones who can stop it. And yes, it's very bittersweet. It kind of actually reminds me the end of the of Cabin in the Woods, um,
Mhm.
where the two remaining people just decide to let the elders beings come forth because it's like I don't want to really live in a world where you have to sacrifice innocent people every year. So it's like, just being like, We're gonna die, but it is better that we die than letting this thing, wreak havoc and kill a bunch of innocent people."
Yeah,
And again,
and
I think
I
oh,
just
go ahead.
go ahead.
I think this is also just one of those things where, again, like we said, there was a lot of in the '80s, there was a lot of sci-fi, and, Hollywood will go through this thing where they, focus, like, on, one genre for a while, and then people get tired of it, like, during I think it was, like, the '30s and maybe the '60s, there was a lot of westerns, people got tired of the westerns, people are kinda tired of superhero films, so I think had this maybe come out in a different era, it would have done much better, but thankfully, it was discovered and people ended up loving it, and it's
Yeah,
become a classic, and it deserves, I think, to be a classic.
I agree. And I also think there's just something tragic to the fact that I'm not sure how much more we'll see films like this because simply because of the way that films are being made now,
Mhm.
where things either have, like a shoestring budget and or a incredibly inflated budget, and you don't get many medium movies. You don't get many B
Yeah.
movies like with more modest budgets or that you discover by accident at
Yeah.
the blockbuster, you know?
Yeah.
Because
Go ahead.
streaming services are populating themselves instead of with like a variety of films with things that they own or are making themselves. So like these things, I'm not sure they'll even be made, let alone discovered and make comebacks.
Yeah. I think the only, like, place I think you can find a lot of indie horror is Shudder. I recently saw Forbidden Fruits, and Shudder helped, like, get that to theaters, but we'll see, Nobody knows the future. So I
Yeah,
would give this a 5 out of 5. I thought this was fantastic.
yeah, I agree. 5 out of 5.
Okay, you guys ready? I'm gonna spin our wheel.
I'm gonna spin the wheel.
Alright,
That will
let's
tell
see
us what our next subject is
see
because we're
what it
both
is.
indecisive. So we're letting the wheel of fate choose for us.
Oh, oh, oh! It is The Creature from the Black Lagoon!
Oh,
So we
that's
are gonna
another classic.
Yeah, we're going to an older film, but we're gonna be learning about one of the most another very iconic, uh, creature of film. This is gonna be exciting. I can't wait to start researching.
Agreed. So, thank you for joining us on our very scary journey. That wasn't all that scary. We were mostly just talking.
Let us know what you think. Leave comments, share this with your friends. Let us know how we did.
Thanks for listening.
All right. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
All righty. And let me just stop Craig.